Hello, everyone. Welcome to Now Next Later for Monday, July 21st. Sasha and I are very excited to bring you a summer edition, a midsummer edition of Now Next Later today. As our attendees come over from the waiting room, we always thank our live attendees for coming to our 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific broadcast. And then, of course, we record it and send it to YouTube for everybody who couldn't make it. But today, one of the people who couldn't make it was actually our guest. As you all know from your lives and watching Now Next Later, we all have day jobs as well. And very occasionally, the day job can get in the way of our plans, our best laid plans. And so our guest had to go attend to some things, their company and of some trends today. So thank you as always for attending. I'm really excited about today's show because I think one of the things we've tried to do, especially with our guests, is spark practical innovation you can use around product, data, partnerships. And often we do those conversations kind of one at a time. Here's one example of innovation you can use. Here's one example trends with lots of ideas you could use. So we're going to kind of distill down this year and this summer into four big buckets and hopefully give you practical talking points, practical ideas that you can use with your customers, particularly for you technology partners, data partners, and vendors out there, what you can use to talk to lenders and sell to lenders that they can use to drive volume. So the Now Next Later today is really going to be Now Next Later in the context of these four trends. How do you use them? How do you use them this year? How do you use them tomorrow to go get more business for your company and for that? Sasha, I'll turn over. How are you doing? I've set up a little. Thank you.
Yeah, you're still cutting in and out for me. I don't know if it's just me or the whole audience. So,
Okay.
all good. If it is the whole audience, if someone can just let me know that so I know whether it's me or your Wi-Fi, and then I can address mine. But meanwhile, I'm doing well. It's nice to see you. Okay, good. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate you. And I'm really excited because normally Jeremy drives the conversation and then I just kind of like pepper in here and there. And today we get to literally flip the switch. And I get to be the one to ask the main questions and then get Jeremy's input, and then we'll turn it into a dialogue. Let's thank you, Garrett and Lynn, as well. Let's hope that your Wi-Fi holds. If not, I'm gonna have to do my best version of Jeremy Potter and fill in. But let's get started. I know one of the main themes and topics that we wanted to hit on is really around housing supply and the realtor environment and where and how we can focus on some impacts there. So there's a lot going on. Obviously, the new federal spending bill has impacts here. Housing supply has impacts here. So when you think about as a lender what they can be doing to differentiate themselves and really build stronger partnerships in that realtor environment, where's your head at today? What are the conversations you're having with lenders? What's working?
Yeah, I tried a new microphone. I don't know if that was part of the issue or not, so I've switched over to this to
Perfect.
see if we can smooth it out here for everyone, the audience included. So here's my thought, Sasha. I've seen a bunch of news articles, studies, or things in our feeds on LinkedIn about the market right now. Home builders lack confidence to build, or real estate agents are seeing things flip in their markets. And it got me thinking about how can these things both be true? How can it be true that we hear from lenders through the MBA, through Now Next Later, through the Crispin commentary? We hear from lenders all the time that they have all these pre-approvals. We have all of these people in the pipeline. We're trying to nurture them. We're getting them their pre-approval letter. They're shopping and they can't win a home. And we hear this every day. And then also realtors and builders saying, how can I sell these properties? I'm pulling properties back. I'm giving $12,000 incentives was one builder's number that I read recently. And I thought there's probably two things you can use here, or two things that must be happening. One, there's a disparity in price point. We have people approved and they're just one possible explanation. And so that leaves us with two options. One, I think we have to talk to builders about the size and scope of our pre-approval pipelines. Here's one thing I've never seen, and tell me if you've seen this. I've never seen a lender publish the amount, total amount of the volume of their underwritten pre-approvals that they hold, either nationwide or in a market. Have you ever seen a lender say, I have 200 million in pre-approvals shopping right now in the market. I have 50 million of volume, total credit volume, total credit amount in Atlanta or in Charlotte or in Dallas. Like, why don't we do a better job celebrating our pipelines, celebrating the amount? We did the underwriting. We've done the hard work in this industry of getting these folks ready, and we know they're ready. And so the first point I would make to builders, to real estate agents, to the marketing folks out there with lenders, like, celebrate the work you've already done. Take credit for the work you've already done in the market. And I don't think it violates any privacy or any other rules to be able to say, I have 10,000 pre-approvals nationwide. Those 10,000 pre-approvals equate to 300 million of buying power. Let's flip the script on builders and real estate agents. Say, look, we've got buying power here. Why aren't you doing a better job of getting our buyers some stock to buy, and start to really take pride in the work we've already done? That brings me to my second point, which is we are better than cash. Cash is actually slower than most mortgage companies. I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with the CEO of Princeton Mortgage, Rich. He's been posting a lot on LinkedIn. I was lucky enough to get some time with him, and we were just chatting. And he said, I can absolutely beat cash with my LOs working in my system to deliver a closing that is faster than that cash buyer who has to liquidate accounts, pull the cash together, get it to the title agent to be able to send it to the table. So it used to be that mortgage couldn't compete with cash because the perception of sellers and real estate agents was cash was quicker. Cash was king, obviously, was the phrase, but cash was quicker. And I think now we have not taken enough credit for flipping that script. I actually think it's easier. Mortgage lenders are sending money to the closing table in all jurisdictions, all across the country, all day, every day. Why don't we see more advocacy of that? Why don't we see the MBA celebrating that mortgage companies are better and faster and more reliable than cash buyers? Like, where's the bigger umbrella to come in and say, our product's a better product? We can actually deliver faster than the cash buyer. Most cash buyers don't have the full amount of the home in one account. Let's be clear. Most do not. Luxury maybe or whatever. But a typical cash buyer, $700,000, $800,000, they have to go get it. They have to pull it from here, talk to the financial advisor, get it together. And we're doing purchase closings in this industry, all sizes, mid-sized lenders, big digital lenders, 9 days, 10 days, 12 days. We can get the cash to the table once the purchase contract comes in. So I would say those are the two things. What are we thinking about? What are we doing around taking credit for what all this work that we've done and pushing back a little bit on these narratives? I'm not sure if you've seen the same thing, but just that volatility around buyer's market, seller's market really got me thinking, and kind of those, trying to distill it down to 2 points. Those are my 2 points.
Yeah, it's interesting content. I mean, I think that pre-approval, at least in my experience, doesn't obviously, it's not a one for one. It doesn't equal a closed loan for a variety of reasons. We know how hard it is to originate and close a mortgage. I mean, there are complexities that get layered in, and things change, inspections don't go well, buyers change their mind, yada, 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 you name it,
Sure.
right? So I
Yep.
do think that there's something there that, would certainly on the devil's advocate side play against that theory, but I don't think you're completely off base. I wonder, and I don't know from a lender perspective how easy it is to have that data and report that data, and whether that might be something that's holding them back, or if they
Sure.
have a fear around sharing that data. So if there are any
Mm-hmm.
lenders in the audience that have thoughts there, would love to hear it. But I do find it really interesting that in a slower market, I would have thought that we would have come closer together as an ecosystem. And what I'm hearing you say thematically is that maybe we've missed an opportunity to come closer in the right ways or in strategic ways that could be thinking outside of the box and really pushing the envelope on how do we move this industry forward in a new and different, innovative direction.
Yeah, right on. I think that thinking through like how we can take credit for all of this effort, and then to your point, frame it in a way that maybe hasn't been framed before. I think those are two key
Yeah.
themes that we're going to hear a lot about as the economy changes and as we move into the fall and the winter for much of the country. I think it'll be a really important thing.
And I'm trying to keep up with you and put these,
Thank you.
trends in
No,
here.
I
No,
appreciate it.
now I'm
Yeah,
like, I don't
cool.
know how you did this every show because I'm struggling to keep up.
No, this
We're
is
missing an
great. Thank
opportunity
you.
to frame stories differently. I like that idea. Um, if
I
we
think,
think about let's actually I know the show is short. Normally we want to do the now next later, but for that one, like let's let that one sit out there and
yep.
marinate and let's move on to one of the other trends that I think we're both seeing, which is we talked about it with other partners before around the shared equity co-buying models.
Hmm.
Um, what are we getting traction there? If we're not, what's the friction? What's the holdup?
Yeah, I think we are seeing exactly the right confluence of trends to really shine a bright light on this. So this is relevant to the first topic that we talked about. Here's how.
Yeah.
Home equity is at an all-time high. We know there is a ton of activity, product development, and marketing around home equity. It's, depending on your estimate, anywhere from 32 to 38 trillion dollars. I tend to land about 35 trillion. I think it's the number I saw this morning when I was poking around. And so if there's that much focus on it, you know there's going to be the HELOC, the closed-end second, and the will buy your equity.
Oh, we lost you there for a minute, Jer.
I'll rephrase then. Hopefully I'm back. I'll rephrase.
Yeah, you're back.
There's a ton of product development around HELOCs, closed-end seconds, and those HEI, HEA products. Those are huge. Why? Because this $35 trillion number is sitting out there and everybody says, well, let's find a piece of that. What I'm saying is, let's actually leverage that success and the progress in those areas to de-risk the shared equity and co-buying models. So I can already offer for co-buyers on a Fannie Freddie loan. There's no regulatory limitation. There's no guideline restriction. As long as you have sales folks and you partner with companies that can do that, 3, 4 people can buy a house together under GSE guidelines today. So that's a way that we address this bucket of people we were talking about in the first category, which is I can't afford a home on the market right now. One possible explanation of why builders are scared, one possible explanation of why cash buyers are winning. Well, let's put our buying power together. That buying power needs to come together as co-buyers, because let's think about this. The DTI looks really strong when you have 4 incomes on a loan rather than 1 or 2. So this is a real de-risked product, in my opinion, that you can sell already under the Fannie Freddie guidelines. Now, there's companies out there who can help you. Nestment is one that comes to mind. Niles from Nestment, for those of you that have seen a lot in the co-buying space. There's others. That's one I think we should be thinking about. How do we get buying power together by having a couple of first-time home buyers buy a house together? And of course, there's legal issues. Everybody in our industry jumps immediately to like, what if one of them gets married? What if one of them leaves? But there's already a solution around that from partners like Nestment who the legal framework. And then shared equity, to me, leverages the same trends. So you can actually partner with an investor, you can partner with a fund, you can partner.
Cut out again.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. No, it's definitely on
That's
my
okay.
side.
Partner with
So
a fund, and then it went. Troop.
yeah, so there's already funds that partner with you or platform to go out there and win that house. You are approved for a certain amount of credit. It's $380,000 of credit to the, you know,
No,
80.
lost you. You're good. You're
All
back.
right, I'm
Keep
waiting.
going.
I know I'm waiting just to make sure
I'm gonna piece the puzzle together. This is gonna be a fun show.
I'm gonna watch the YouTube video and see how distracting it is. So I apologize to the audience, but thank you for hanging in there with us.
Fine.
Yeah, so like a crib equity, for example, would be a platform that has funding to work with originators to get that first-time home buyer what they need. So if I can't find a house in my price range, how do I find one I can buy? Well, I got to partner. I got to partner with other buyers like a co-buy, or I have to partner with a platform like a shared equity platform. Crib Equity will get you the money. And now all of a sudden I can go buy the house. And I think of the next year.
Do you know lenders that are pursuing this model and how it's going?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two biggest things for lenders that are pursuing this model, one is how do I make the distinction clear that this isn't the typical down payment assistance grant, that this is actually a
Right.
different thing, so that my LOs can talk about it with real estate agents and say, this is actually a buying power. This is actually a de-risking element that we have that others don't. So you can actually be first in your market to say, this is different than that because we're empowering the buyer, and it isn't the sort of same thing as this is a higher risk down payment buyer. This is actually just a buyer who's using leverage and
Yep.
win house, but you have to have that educational tool with the LOs. And so that's where a lot of the ones who are already offering the product are offering it. The second thing you asked about that I'm kind of playing with here is what this means for the mortgage insurance and the mortgage insurance industry.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get to
Mm-hmm.
20% down without bringing 20% down, but I can get the
Yeah.
benefit of not having that higher monthly payment, what does that mean
Yep.
for my purchasing power? And what does that mean for my ability to sell the product? So a lot of lenders are looking at it as that buying power I talked about earlier. Some lenders we're talking to also thinking about it as like an MI alternative product that I really like as well. So I'll
Yeah.
pause there. Seems like we have a hand up, at least on
We
my screen.
do,
I
and
don't know if
I'll
it's
circle back to it in a minute because it's related
okay,
to the
cool.
pre-approval. So we'll come back to
Great.
it. But one other thing I wanted to call out here on the co-buying is I think in the new spending bill, there wasn't a lot around down payment programs and like any expansion of. And so it just gives like another double down on perhaps this is an area that you're going to want to look at as a lender and start to explore as a secondary option too. Given that I don't know that we're going to see as much push on the DPA side that we have in the past, at least for right now.
Yeah.
Um, so Deb made a really good point, and I, am remiss in forgetting my time with a credit union on working through a fun HMDA LAR project. But from a HMDA requirement standpoint, they do have to report pre-approvals, right? That is the first precipice of when something becomes HMDA required to report it, is if you've given a bona fide offer, if there's a pre-approval, like now you got to report it. So that data is there. So then the question becomes, to your point earlier, why aren't we then sharing it?
Right. You can, and so if you know, yeah, if you know in your system you've got it, you can calculate it. I appreciate that, Deb, because the data management and data reporting side, especially when you start doing marketing off of it, is really important for compliance as well as for
Yeah.
accuracy. So great. Well, that's good to hear. So
Yeah,
those are
yeah,
my
good
first two.
call out.
Those are my first two trends. I think those trends we're going to see. That's in the purchase market, availability. That's marketing. I think those are probably exciting because they're sales and marketing focused, but those two big buckets and trends, I think if you're not thinking about it, shared equity or co-buying, you should be taking a look at it.
Yeah, fair enough. And one of the other ones that I know we want to talk about is AI, and we talk about AI on the show, different time frames, different subject matters, whether it's somebody coming on to the show that works for a company whose product is really foundationally built on AI, whether it's a lender trying to navigate through do they build or do they buy as it relates to AI. And then we've had some conversation around compliance and regulation and the changing governing environment around AI. And
Right.
so I think just a check-in right now on, what is the latest? We've got the Housing Wire AI Summit coming up. I know our company is participating in a California MBA AI panel. And so it's still a hot topic. It's still a lot of hype, but what's the reality, right? What are you seeing your lenders doing in this space? Are they building? Are they buying? How are they partnering with vendors? And how's it working?
Yeah, thank you. I will apply the now, next, later real quick to this to make it kind of, I think, a seamless summary, which is hopefully as long as my Wi-Fi holds up. The now part is we're definitely seeing mass adoption on voice AI, call center, chatbot, sales, and customer service related AI. That's almost like an ante to play now. And a lot of CRM providers and lenders that I talk to have called it a commodity already. We already are
Mm.
seeing a commodity around phone call, voice, chat, frequently asked questions, AI. So that's sort of your now category. I think the next category we hear the most about is I need really fast data processing, usually around documents or income asset, PDF or direct source. And how do I get my underwriters the power of seeing some preliminary analytics on it around income or asset calculations? And so that non data intake, using it for preliminary underwriting. I think there's a lot there, and we're seeing that underwriting of income and asset layer is the next, meaning it's happening, but it's going to explode, especially around some of those providers. So definitely income agency underwriting. The later category I wanted to focus on the most was actually agent AI tasking. And
Hmm.
particular
Oh,
task. Yeah,
sorry, good. That time you
no,
really
no.
cut out for a long frame. So start over with the agent AI tasking.
Well, I think this is the most in
We're gonna have to get an AI bot for Jer that just can work better than your wife.
fix my Wi-Fi. Yeah, exactly. Like, why is it happening? Anyway, so I think that the AI agent is actually capable of operating exactly the way you would do a business process outsource historically. We got super comfortable with business process outsourcing platforms who come in and
Mhm.
say, I'm going to do all this for you. And then they figure out how to make the economics work and they do the work. And whether that's offshore or not, whether it's call center or ops center, we got super comfortable with BPO platforms. Agent AI somehow was seen as like more risky than that. And I actually don't think it will be. I think by the end of the year, we'll be talking about agent AI tasking exactly the same way we've talked about BPO partners historically. And so areas like servicing, areas like post-closing, areas like processing under the hood are just going to become, I just BPO'd it, but instead of this like massive kind of offshore platform that banks might use or that lenders might use, it's an AI agent platform. But ultimately, it doesn't scare anybody anymore because it just falls into that category. And I've seen those categories stay separate, and I don't think they're going to be separate for very long. I think agent AI tasking is going to become business process outsourcing, and we just haven't seen it yet. But I think we will. And I think that'll be a big area in the next year.
Okay, I think I recaptured all of that, even with your like, iRobot answers with the Wi-Fi. Um, I mean, I don't actually know companies, and this is ignorance on my part, doing the agent AI tasking. Can you give some examples of what, and you mentioned post-close and servicing being like prime spots to start. Which companies are focused on that and how are they going about that?
Yeah, so the way I'm seeing it is there's a sort of employment platform type of thing. So that category type of company in that category. And I think the key question for this type of agent is, are you going to work with a company dedicated to it, like an AmpliWork, who actually you give the specs to? You do the documentation, you give them the specs, they create the agent, and then they duplicate that agent.
Hmm,
Or will it come from your existing platforms?
right.
Alta sources like the big outsourcing platforms start to just generate these agents under their hood, and you don't even have to change partners because they've brought you the agent. So the dedicated agent platforms like an AmpliWork or whatever, I think they are coming to you and saying, I am task specific and I create however many you want. And then the BPO platforms are trying to create their own and saying, you don't have to go anywhere else. We'll just serve it through you, similar to how the CRMs are doing voice AI so that you don't have to go anywhere else for it. It'll be that same tension in the market. Do you go with somebody who's going to create it? And there's shared knowledge.
Okay, that makes sense. One thing I'm going to note before I ask you one more question, because I can't ignore it, is Mr. Chrisman would like to see you spend a little bit more
Yes.
money on your Wi-Fi and let go of your dial-up days. It's time, Jer.
It's
Proof is in the pudding there, Rob. I asked the question and there he is. He's cut out again.
so
So the other question I was going to ask you is in your conversations with lenders are really starting to use these underwriting tools and getting their underwriters comfortable with leveraging that to do some of the data minutia work that they don't need to do and then coming in as the second set of eyes. How is it working? What are you hearing them say? Where are we still meeting resistance? What can you pass on to lenders on the call here from others that you've worked with?
yeah, I think the biggest thing is picking that first area that's going to be a short win and adopting that one role, that one task, or that one data point, and then perfecting it, and then adding another one. That was not always my advice, but that's the advice I've learned watching this happen is pick your product, pick your channel, or pick your intake region, and then get it right, and then scale it quickly, and then do the next one and the next one. So an example would be if I do a non-agency small, like a self-employed income product, start with that. Get income right on your non-agency self-employed, and then trust it, and then scale it, or something like that. It doesn't have to be that one. DSCR is a big category. There's a bunch of other categories you can choose from, but it would be start with one and move on from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, it follows agile development. The reason why we shifted from waterfall to agile, right? Building something large over a long period of time and then, turning it on and hoping that everything's going to work. We realized there's a lot more issues with that model than going with the iterative approach. And so it makes sense to start small, try something, see how it goes, and then build on it from there in order to both scale, but also to learn what works within your own business model because everyone's business and mortgage is different. I know we like to say that they're all the same, but humans are still running the show and humans are different. And so everyone's operating shop is going to look a little different, feel a little different. And so I think that tactic and that strategy makes sense when it comes to AI and adoption. We're coming up on time.
Right on.
It's been fun
Yep.
to let you like take the lead on giving us all your thoughts and ideas when you're normally the one pulling it out of all of us. What else do you want to close the call with?
I just had one last thought that I hope I could just close out on a takeaway that doesn't get all garbled and cut out. So we're seeing more and more of like everything old is new again. And with new tools and new partnerships, we can kind of tried before. When I was at Rocket Mortgage, I tried a Rocket Rewards marketplace, a homeowner benefits marketplace with everything you might imagine: landscaping, painting, moving service, estate planning, and things like that. And it didn't quite take off. We saw a bunch of servicer or sub-servicer layers like Haven pop up and add all these diverse things. We saw HomeBot pop up with the home equity measurements and all these other things you can put in there. And I think one of the areas that we're going to see more is what else can I offer that gives me home buyer, homeowner data that I can then use to sell and stay in touch and grow the relationship. I saw some data recently. I was very surprised how few first-time home buyers have a will. I was surprised how
Hmm.
few people in our industry have a will, right? And like when you buy a house, that's a big moment for something like this. So between advising, like financial advising and estate planning and mortgage for things like that, things like a will, things like investments, things like home owner services. A topic, like I said, everything old is new again.
Okay, you cut out big time there. So I'm gonna wrap it up for you and then we're gonna call it today. So what I'm hearing is, and for the record, I don't have a will and I'm 42, so that's bad news, Blues. We're gonna work on that. Although I just believe I'm immortal, even though I go out in the sunlight, so clearly I'm not a vampire. But that being said, for a lot of time home buyers, sounds like the data shows they don't, and that there are even some like myself in mortgage who don't. And so there's an opportunity to continue to double down on that financial advisor piece, right? Like you're not just helping someone get into a home, you're helping
That's
them
right.
build wealth for generations to come and putting them in a really good position. And that requires them thinking about their financial well-being holistically. That also gives us an opportunity to leverage that data to continue to build those long-term relationships so that we can retain those customers. So I think that was where you were fishing. I appreciate everyone being here today, even through the blips of technology. And Jared, if there's anything else you want to say, feel free. I think you're still here with us. And if not, then we'll close out.
Thank you again for being patient. Sasha, I love hosting this show with you. Thank you for hanging in there and being flexible. So great to see you as always, and we'll see you again next week.
Sounds great. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.